Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. This story takes place one late night as I was doing my grocery shopping. I would often go shopping late at night after work, and I liked it because my local grocery store was always open and never very busy at that hour, so I could get everything I needed in a short time. One night after work, I was shopping for some groceries and happened to be going down the soda aisle. As I reached the end of it, I noticed something on the bottom shelf. It appeared to be a Polaroid photograph. I found it strange for one to be on a store shelf, so I curiously picked it up. It was a picture of a house, and it had no writing on the lower area where people typically wrote. I was about to put it back on the shelf when I noticed something. The house looked a lot like mine. I took a good, long look at the photo, and the house in it looked almost identical to mine. I found this really strange, but ended up putting the photo back. Then I finished my shopping and went home. A few days later, though, I was walking outside to leave for work, and I noticed something on the ground. It was another Polaroid picture. I picked it up and saw that it was the same picture from the grocery store, the same one of my house. I knew I had left it in the store the other night, and I was really weirded out by this. I took the photo with me and left for work. When I was done for the day, I had to stop at the grocery store again. I bought some frozen pizzas, a few vegetables, and was making my way over to the pasta. The store was, once again, rather quiet, as it was almost 11 p.m. As I was walking, I suddenly saw something as I passed from one aisle to the next. There was a man about 40 feet away from me with a camera pointed directly at me. I couldn't see his face because it was covered by the camera, but I could tell he was wearing a black jacket. Just when he saw me, he ducked back behind another aisle. No doubt this was the man who had taken the photo of my house. What did he want from me? I walked over to the aisle where the man had been, but he was gone. I walked around the store for a while, trying to find him, but I never did. I finished my shopping and went back home. I never found any more pictures or saw the man again. I still wonder about him to this day. I used to work at a small grocery store when I was younger. This was during high school, and between school and work, I was really busy. I mostly worked in produce, stocking shelves, but I would do whatever else they needed. I'm not proud of this, but I would occasionally hide in the back room and go on my phone when I didn't have much work to do, or when things were quiet. One day, things weren't very busy, so I went into the back room and started to use my phone. I had my walkie-talkie with me in case anyone needed me, though people rarely went into the back. About 10 minutes after I got back there, I heard the doors to the back room swing open. I assumed it was my boss or a coworker, and since I had a little time before they would reach me, I ran into the bathroom and quietly shut the door. I heard them walk in, and then I heard another person. Both of them got to about 15 feet away from me and started talking, but it wasn't my boss's voice or any coworker I recognized. They continued walking around and talking to each other, but I couldn't make out most of what they were saying. Then, I heard one of them mention a car in the back. It didn't take long for me to realize they were robbing our store. We didn't have the best security, being an older and smaller store, so I tried not to make a sound and hoped they would leave soon. They kept talking, though, and finally, it sounded like they were getting ready to go. Just then, my walkie-talkie beeped with someone trying to reach me. I quickly turned it off so it wouldn't make another sound, but the damage was already done. I heard one of the men ask what that noise was, and they started to walk over to the bathroom. One of them banged on the door loudly, twice. The man yelled and demanded to know who I was. I didn't answer. He then told me to come out in a very stern tone. I decided to say the first thing that came to mind. I told him I had already called the police and that they were almost there. Surprisingly, it seemed to work. The man didn't say anything more, and I heard them both walk away. I stayed in there for a while, then turned my walkie back on. My boss had been trying to reach me for a while. I came back out into the store, and the police, who actually had been called by someone else, arrived a short time later. This happened about a year and a half ago, so I apologize if some of the details are unclear. I was working part-time as a cashier at a grocery store when I was about 20. Since I was in school, I worked Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights, mostly closing shifts, which didn't bother me. I didn't live far, and the store was in a well-lit parking lot, surrounded by other stores and a gas station. One day, a stocky guy, around 5 feet 5 inches, and looking to be about 20, came up to my register. Let's call him Marlon. He asked if I had a boyfriend, to which I said yes, which was true. A taller, skinnier guy, who looked around the same age, came up beside him. Let's call him Sean. Marlon relayed the news that I had a boyfriend to Sean, and I realized it was Sean who was interested in me. Sean started flirting, saying I must be lying, or hinting that I could still talk to him even though I had a boyfriend. At first, I laughed a little and kept the conversation going, not because I was interested or flirting back, but because I thought it was just a playful attempt to flirt, as some guys my age did. I figured he'd go about his business after that. Eventually, he left my register, and both guys wandered around the store before finally leaving without buying anything. A day or two later, Sean came back. I assumed he lived nearby, as many of our customers did, so I wasn't surprised. He tried to flirt again, denying that I had a boyfriend or making jokes about it. At this point, I was a little confused about why he was so insistent on talking to me. I wore a mask at work due to the pandemic, so he hadn't even seen my whole face. By Sean's third approach, I was feeling uncomfortable. I decided to ignore him or tell him to leave me alone if he approached me again. This time, my manager asked me to clean carts in our little lobby area. I put my AirPods in and cleaned for a while, unbothered. Eventually, as the sun started setting, I figured I wouldn't see Sean that night. Just as I began to relax, though, I saw him walk in. I tried to turn away from the door and keep busy with cleaning, hoping he'd go straight into the store without noticing me. Unfortunately, he spotted me and said, "Dang, you don't want to talk to me?" I tried to ignore him, but he wouldn't leave me alone. I turned around, trying to make it clear he was bothering me, and even told him I wasn't interested. I kept my responses short and dry, saying I had to get back to work. He kept playing it off, but eventually, he went into the store. Later, I was asked to get carts from outside, and by then, it was getting dark. I took the opportunity to call my mom, letting her know that Sean was back. The previous night, I had asked my dad to wait for me when I got off, because I was afraid Sean was waiting in the parking lot. Sean had also asked me about my work schedule, so he likely knew when I'd be around. I wanted someone on the phone with me in case Sean approached me again. Sure enough, Sean and Marlon walked up to me in the parking lot. I said, "What do you want?" "I'm talking to my mom." I don't remember exactly what he said, but Sean ended the conversation with something like, "I'll see you later," before they walked off to the side of the store. By then, he knew I didn't want him around, and I took his comment as a threat. I kept my mom on the phone as I walked back inside. A coworker noticed I looked upset, so I told him what was happening. He said he saw Sean and Marlon get into a black car parked beside the store. When I came back inside, I told a security guard, Michael, about Sean. Michael mentioned that he'd seen Sean and his friends walking around outside near the entrance. At some point, Sean casually showed a gun tucked into the side of his pants, apparently trying to look intimidating. Michael either asked him to leave or to put the gun away, I can't recall which. Michael seemed unbothered, saying Sean was just trying to show off. Another young female coworker told me Sean often bothered young women and that she thought the gun was fake. I wasn't willing to take any chances, real or not. I went into the break room and called my mom, crying. I felt threatened and wasn't sure what Sean's intentions were. I'd heard horror stories about girls getting hurt or worse because some guy couldn't take rejection. With Sean's friends around to hype him up, I was afraid things could escalate. My mom was furious and said she was coming to pick me up. She told me to let my manager know I was leaving early, but for some reason, I didn't want to leave before my shift ended. It was close to closing, and I didn't want to leave the only other cashier alone. I worked the last hour or so and asked Michael to walk me to my car. My mom, sister, and dad were all waiting outside. As I got into my car, my dad mentioned he'd seen a black car in the parking lot that eventually pulled away when he arrived, which only confirmed that Sean and his friends had been waiting for me. I informed the store manager that I wouldn't be coming in for the next few days because I didn't feel safe. Eventually, I returned to work, though, as I was close to graduation, and my schoolwork was picking up. To this day, I still wonder what could have happened that night if I hadn't told my parents. I'm just grateful that I never had to find out. This story is from roughly 20 years ago. I used to live in a nice little neighborhood outside a major city in the US. I would often shop at the same grocery store, usually going at least twice a week. One time, I was shopping near the deli counter when I saw a man who worked there in a butcher's uniform, staring at me. He seemed to be in a deep stare, and it caught me by surprise. He was a bigger guy with a dark mustache and appeared to be in his 50s or so. He just kept staring at me, and it made me really uncomfortable. So, I gave a small smile and waved a little. He didn't wave back or smile at all. After that, I tried my best to ignore it and moved to a different part of the store. Over the next several visits, I kept seeing this guy, and every time he'd be staring at me. It was creepy. I figured he must have been new to the store since I'd never noticed him before. Then, one day, I was in the cereal aisle. In this store, if there were no products on the shelves, you could actually see through to the next aisle. As I was searching for a certain cereal, I noticed an open space, and through it, I saw the man staring at me from the next aisle. I jumped back when I saw him and walked away. At this point, he was being a total creep. I went all the way to the front of the store and found the manager. I asked him about the man with the mustache who worked at the deli. He told me they didn't have anyone with a mustache working there. I described the man in more detail, and the manager insisted that no one fitting that description worked there. We went all around the store looking for him, but he was nowhere to be found. After that, I never shopped at that store again. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.